welcome to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. In this lecture series, today our topic is evolution, which is taken from CBSE Class 12th, Chapter 7, Part 2 of Evolution series. Before this, in first video, we discussed about the origin of life. In this video, we will see the evolution among organisms on Earth. So, at first, the question is, what is evolution? Chemical evolution produced life on primitive Earth, introducing conditions through interactions of molecules in the water bodies. It was explained by A.I. Oparin in 1936 in his book Origin of Life, duly supported by J.B.S. Haldane. This was followed by biological or organic evolution, which gave rise to numerous kinds of organisms over the ages. So, the term evolution was coined by Herbert Spencer, an English philosopher, which means unfold or simply the process of continuous changes. Interrelationships seen among organisms and a host of other evidences support the idea that all the organisms came into being by evolution from a common source. So, evolution is the change in the characteristics of a species over several generations and relies on the process of natural selection. Evolution relies on there being genetic variation in a population which affects the physical characteristics of an organism. Now, relationships among organisms. So, unity in diversity is an important characteristic of life. Microorganisms, fungi, plants, and animals appear very different in form, structure, and mode of life. But all of them show many common features. These features are often called characteristics of life or biotraits because these are not shown by non-living objects. So here, the first characteristic is living material. All organisms are composed of living matter, that is the protoplasm, of simple physical structure and chemical composition. Protoplasm exists as units called cells, and each cell in every organism is enclosed by a plasma membrane and contains certain organelles and genetic material. The cell components have similar structure and function. Next is movement. All organisms show some sort of movements. There are movements within the cell, movements of organelles, of organs, and of the whole body locomotion. So, the movement of living organisms are spontaneous because the force for them arises within their bodies. Next is uptake of matter and energy. All organisms take up matter, that is food, oxygen, water, salt, and energy, food from the environment. Next is metabolism. All organisms use matter to build up and maintain their bodies and utilize energy to operate life process. They achieve this by synthesis of macromolecules and by energy transformation. This process constitutes metabolism and take place in a similar manner in all organisms at the body temperature with the help of enzymes, the biocatalyst. Next is growth. All living organisms grow in size. Their growth is irreversible and occurs at the cost of substances different from their own body material and involves addition of new body material within the existing one. Such a growth is called intussusceptions. Some non-living objects such as crystals or stalagmite grow. Their growth is different, is reversible, occurs at the cost of same substance, and new material is added to their outer surface. Such a growth is termed accretions. So, accretion means to increase in size, and intussusception means here is meant within to take up. That means within increase in size. So, this is growth. After this, respiration. Energy is released during the breakdown of food materials by the process of cell respiration. So the energy released is stored in ATP molecules, and this compound occurs in all the living cells. Next is release of matter and energy. All organisms release matter, that means waste product, and energy, that is heat, as a result of metabolism. Next is irritability. All organisms are able to respond to the external and internal stimuli, and this power is called irritability. Next is coordination of parts. The various organelles or organs of all organisms function in perfect coordination for their benefit. Next is reproduction. All organisms reproduce to multiply and perpetuate their race. Next is definite individuality. All organisms can exist only as complete individuals and never as parts. So, we cannot keep half a cow or a rose plant without roots. Next is origin. All organisms arise only from the pre-existing organism of their kind. Next is struggle for existence. All organisms have to compete with others for obtaining the basic requirements of life, namely food, space, mate, and safety. Next is homeostasis. All organisms, by regulating metabolic process, maintain homeostasis. It means constant internal conditions in their bodies for survival. Next is healing and regeneration. All organisms have the power of healing, though to varied degrees. Many can regrow the missing parts also. This power enables the organism to live longer. Next is heredity. All organisms inherit a pattern of structural and functional organization from their parents by way of genes through the same laws of heredity. Next is evolution. All existing organisms have evolved by a similar mechanism, that is gradual change in the pre-existing organism. Next is adaptation. All organisms are able to adapt to the environment by a similar mechanism. Then this capacity enables them to survive in the changing environment. Next is organized life cycle. All organisms undergo a regular sequence of events coming into existence, growth, maturity, old age, and death. None lives forever. Next is differentiation. Embryonic development of all organisms involves inactivation of specific genes at a specific time in an orderly fashion. This process is called differentiation. Next is proper environment. All organisms can survive in proper environment where their requirements are available and conditions are suitable for life and not just anywhere. Next is form and size. No doubt, the organisms vary greatly in form and size, but each species has a fixed average size and a nearly constant form. Most organisms can be recognized by these features alone. So, why organisms show similarities? The above similarities among living organisms exist because all of them have evolved from a common early form of life. Thus, evolutionary changes in a fundamental characteristic of life, but it has not affected the unity of life. In fact, the living organism must change according to their environment, else they can't survive. So these all are the relationships among organisms. After this, now the ancient thoughts on evolution. So at first, Pluto. Pluto stated that each species was an unchanging ideal form. Accordingly, all earthly representatives are imperfect imitations of such true essence of an ideal unseen world. God is perfect and everything that existed on earth was his ideas. Next is Aristotle. Here, broaden Pluto's idealistic approach and gave hierarchical linking of series of form popularly known as ladder of nature or scalar nature. In this great chain of being, each form represented a link in the progression from the most imperfect to the most perfect. The ancient Indian text of philosophy and Ayurveda was deal with the origin of life. Manu Samhita or Manu Samiti, a text in Sanskrit, has also mentioned evolution. So here you can see the Aristotle's ladder of nature. What is it means? Aristotle's main work on this classification of animals was the scalar nature or ladder of nature, which was not evolutionary in its structure, as it placed contemporary species on the rungs of the model. The main criteria for placement on the ladder of nature is the ability to move and sense, hence, plants and inanimate matter coming at the bottom and the animals at the top. The animals were graded by their reproductive method and whether they possessed blood. The overall effect of this classification is that higher organisms are defined as having vitality and movement, while the lower organisms are bloodless and motionless. So, it ranged from inanimate matter as the lowest and then up to the plants, then to animals. The highest things on the ladder are humans. So, this is the ladder of nature. Now, after this, what is the meaning of organic evolution? So, the term evolution literally means to unroll or unfold. It refers to a change from one form to another. Changes in the elements with time in inorganic evolution and the changes in living organism with time in organic or biological evolution. The theory or doctrine of organic evolution was given by Charles Darwin. So, according to him, the present day complex organisms have originated during the course of ages from the earlier simpler forms of life by a process of gradual or abrupt changes occurring in a sequential manner and in accordance with the environmental requirements. Charles Darwin briefly explained this theory as descent with modification. Modifications occur by interaction of genes and environment. So, according to the evolutionists, the unicellular organisms were the first to appear in the world. Some of them gave rise to the multicellular organism. The earlier multicellular organisms were relatively simple, such as the seedless plants and invertebrate animals. The simpler multicellular organisms were later modified into the complex multicellular ones such as the seed plants and vertebrate animals. The early vertebrate were fishes. Some fishes gradually changes into the amphibians. Certain amphibians then produced the reptiles. Some of the latter finally evolved into the birds and mammals. Human evolved from the now extinct ape-like animals by accumulation of changes from generation to generation. Now, what are the importance of the organic evolution? Organic evolution is one of the key concepts of biology. Theodosius Dobzhansky remarked in 1973 that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So, after this, now the evidences of organic evolution. So, here many types of evidences support the doctrine of organic evolution, and these are categorized as: first is the morphological and anatomical evidences, next is embryological evidences, then paleontological evidences, after this biogeographical evidences, then physiological or biochemical evidences, then taxonomic evidences, then cytological evidences, then evidences from animals and plant breeding, and the last is current evolution. So, here are 9 evidences of the organic evolution, which we will discuss in the next slide. So here, the first evidence is morphological and anatomical evidences. Comparative study of the morphology and anatomy of animals and plants show that certain structural features are basically similar. So these features include first one, that is the body organization, then gradual modification, then homologous organs, then analogous organs, then connecting link, then vestigial organs, and the last is atavism. So these are the features of the morphological and anatomical evidences. So in this feature, here the first feature is body organization. So what is in the body organization and what are the evidences in the body organization in morphological and anatomical evidences? The body of all animals and plants is formed of microscopic units, that is the cells. In most cases, similar cell aggregates to form tissues, tissues gather to form organs, and the organs cooperate to form organ system. This similarity in body organization indicates a fundamental unity of all animals. In case of sponges, the cells functions more or less independently, not organizing themselves into tissues. This gives the sponges a cellular level of organization. In coelentrates, the cells are aggregated into tissues, but the latter do not form organs. This produces a tissue level of organization. In platyhelminths onward, the body has organ system level of organization, comprising cells, tissues, organs, and organ system. The stepwise change from the simple to complex body organization is evolution. In case of bryophytes, here you can see the plant body is a thallus without the root, stem and leaves like Markentia, or a leafy shoot with stem-like central axis bearing leaf-like appendages and root-like rhizoids, that is moss. In pteridophytes, the plant's body has true roots, true stems and true leaves with vascular tissues but lacks flowers, fruits and seeds. In case of gymnosperm, have developed seeds but do not form flowers and fruits. In case of angiosperm, produces flowers, fruits and seeds. So, the progressive changes from simple to complex body organization is evolution. After this, the second feature is gradual modification. So, according to this, certain vertebrate organs such as heart show gradual modification, which is the actual mechanism of organic evolution. The heart is two-chambered, one auricle and one ventricle in the fishes, three-chambered, that is two auricles and one ventricle in the amphibians, incompletely four-chambered, that is two auricles and partly divided ventricle in most of the reptiles, and completely four-chambered, that is two auricles and two ventricles in crocodiles, birds and mammals. So these are the changes in the heart. Now here you can see the brain. In the brain, the change concerns enlargement of cerebrum, that is center of higher mental activities, and cerebellum, that is center of coordination. So here you can see that how the size of brain increase from the squirrel, capybara, lion and the chimpanzee. So this is the gradual modification. After this, the third feature is homologous organs. So, what is homologous organs? The organs of different species of common descendant which look different and perform different functions but have the similar basic structure, similar topographic relationship and similar embryonic origin are called homologous organs. So in case of homologous, the origin is same but the functions are different. The term homologous organs was coined by Richard Owen. Homology is based on divergent evolution. So in this case, you have to know that origin is same but the function is different in case of homologous organs. Here the first example, you can see here the vertebrate forelimbs. The forelimbs of vertebrates such as man, cheetah, whale and bat afford a good example of the homologous organ. The forelimbs of these animals have the different shapes and serve different purpose. They are used for grasping in man, for running in cheetah, for swimming in whale and for flying in bat. They are however viewed on the same plan. In each case, the forelimb consists of upper arm having a single bone that is humerus, the forearm containing two bones that is radius and ulna, and the hand having carpels in which the wrist, metacarpals in the palm and the phalanges in the digit. So all vertebrates have basic similarity in the structure of their forelimbs because they inherited it from an ancestor which had 5-digited or pentadactyl limbs. The pentadactyl limb of the ancestral vertebrate became modified according to the special needs of the subsequent generations during the course of evolution. So, the modification has been minor, that is, a reduction in the number of digits, fusion of certain bones, and external form. Next is insect mouth parts. In all the insects, the mouth parts include a labrum, a pair of mandibles, and 2 pairs of maxillae, and these help in feeding. But they are differently modified in different insects. This modification is associated with the feeding habit of the insect. Like in cockroach, the mouth part are adopted for chewing solid food. In mosquito, for sucking liquid food. In housefly, for sponging fluids. And in the butterfly, for siphoning nectar. The similarity in the fundamental structure of the apparently different mouthparts indicate the common ancestry of all the insects. Next is thorns and tendrils of some plants. A thorn of glory of the garden, that is bougainvillea, and a tendril of passion flower, that is passiflora, or tendrils of cucurbita are homologous organs in plants. They look different and help the plant in climbing in different manner, but both arise in the axillary position and are modified branches. Next is here you can see the leaves of the higher angiosperms plant arises from nodes. These may be simple leaves or pinnately compound leaves, leaf tendrils of wild pea plant or the leaf spine of the barberry. These are all homologous organs. So these are the homologous. Here you can see the normal leaf, palmate leaf or pinnate leaf. So this shows the homology. Now after this, the fourth feature is analogous organ, which is just opposite of the homologous organ. So what is analogous organ? The organs which have the same function and are superficially alike but are quite different in fundamental structure and embryonic origin are called the analogous organs. So in analogous organs, the origin is different but the functions are same, just opposite of the homology. Analogy is based on convergent evolution. So here you can see the example, that is insect and bird wings. The wings of an insect and the wing of a bird are analogous organs. Both these organs are used for flying in the air, but they are very different in structure. An insect wing is an extension of the integument, whereas a bird wing is formed of limb bones covered with the flesh, skin and feathers. The superficial similarity of these organs is due to adaptation to flying rather than to inheritance from a common ancestor. So each has evolved from separate ancestral populations as the means of more efficient mode of locomotion. So this shows the analogous organ. Here you can see the convergent evolution in case of fishes, that in fins and flippers. So what are the differences? The pectoral fins of fishes and the flippers of dolphins are flattened organs used for swimming. However, the two have different structure. The flippers are the modified pentadactyl forelimbs, whereas the fins are not pentadactyl. Hence, the two are analogous organs developed from aquatic life. Similarly, flippers of penguins and the dolphins are analogous organs. Next is cephalopod and vertebrate eyes. Eyes of cephalopods like octopus and sepia and the vertebrates like fishes, amphibians, reptile, birds and mammals have many morphological features in common besides the same function. However, there are striking differences between the two groups. The retina of the vertebrate eye originated as an outgrowth of the embryonic brain, whereas the entire eye of a cephalopod develops as a modification of the skin. Thus, the eye of cephalopods are analogous to the eye of vertebrates. Now, the leaves and cladodes. Leaves of a plant and stem modifications called cladodes of ruscus. Here you can see in picture that is ruscus has cladodes. They look alike and serve to carry on photosynthesis but have different structures. Now, tuberous root and potato. Sweet potato and potato are modifications for food storage. However, sweet potato is an underground tuberous root, whereas potato is an underground tuberous stem. Therefore, the two are analogous organs. So, their origin is different, but the function are same, that is used for the food storage. Next is here sting of honeybee and scorpion are analogous structures. In case of honeybee, sting is a modification of its ovipositor which helps in egg laying, while sting of a scorpion is the modified last abdominal segment. Stings of these two arthropod species, however, perform similar functions. So, origin are different but the functions are same. Next is stem tendrils of Passiflora and leaf tendrils of the Pisum sativum are analogous organs. Both the structures perform similar functions that is meant for climbing but are quite different in embryonic origin. So, the existence of analogous organ is satisfactorily explained by the concept of evolution. Analogous organs have developed in the evolutionary process through adaptation of quite different organisms to similar mode of life. So these are the analogous organs. After this, the fifth feature is connecting links. So what are connecting links? The living organism which possess characters of two different groups of organisms are known as the connecting links. Like Euglena, peripatus, lungfishes and egg-laying mammals are familiar instances of the connecting links. So here you can see the example like first that is the Euglena. Euglena, a protist, is often regarded a connecting link between the plants and animals. Its plant characters are chloroplast and photoautotropic nutrition. Its animal features include contractile vacuole, mouth and binary fission. So Euglena shows the connecting link between the plant and animals because Euglena has both the characters of plants and animals. Next is peripatus. It is a connecting link between annelids and arthropods. Its annelid features are worm-like body, unjointed legs and nephridia, and its arthropod characters are claws, jaws, tracheae, hemocele, dorsal tubular heart. Next is lungfish. The lungfish is a connecting link between fishes and amphibians. Like other fishes, they have paired fins, dermal scales and gills. They resemble amphibians in having internal nares, a single or double lung for breathing air and three-chambered heart. The lungfish thus suggests the stage through which the amphibian could evolve from fish. Next is egg-laying mammals. The egg-laying mammals such as the spiny anteater and the duck-billed platypus link the mammals with the reptiles. They are decidedly mammals as they have the many mammalian features such as hair, mammary glands, diaphragm, single aortic arc, etc. But they resemble the reptiles in having a large coracoid in the pectoral girdle, in laying large eggs with a yolk and shell, and in having cloaca. They are thus midway between the reptiles and the mammals, and are sometimes described as the unfinished mammals. They show the stage through which the reptiles have evolved into mammals. Now, here are some other examples of the connecting links in which, that is Neopalina. In this picture you can see it is a connecting link between annelids and mollusk. After this, Balanoglossus, which is a connecting link between non-chordates and chordates. Next is Chimera, that is rabbit fish. It is a connecting link between cartilaginous and bony fishes. Next is Coelacanth. It is a connecting link between bony fishes and amphibians. Next is Sphenodon, a primitive reptile. It is a connecting link between amphibians and reptiles. So, the connecting links establish continuity in the series of animals by proving that one group has evolved from the others. After this, the sixth feature is vestigial organs. So, what are vestigial organs? The organs which occur in reduced form and are useless to possessors but are homologous to the fully developed functional organs of related animals are called vestigial organs. These organs were fully developed, functional, and necessary in their ancestral forms but are gradually disappearing in the living forms due to change in their mode of life. It would be wasteful to continue providing nutrients, blood, and space to the organs that no longer have a role. So, here are some examples of the vestigial organs in which you can see here. In case of human body, there are 90 vestigial organs in which the first one, that is the tailbone, that is coccyx. It is a small triangular bone at the end of the sacrum. It consists of four rudimentary vertebrae fused together. It is a vestige of the tail of an ancestral form. Next is canine and wisdom teeth. Carnivores have large projecting canines to tear the body of the prey. Human canines are small due to different mode of taking food. Wisdom teeth are the third or last molars. They, besides being small, appear very late or do not appear at all. This suggests that they are becoming useless and may eventually disappear. Next is third eyelid, that is nictitating membrane. In frog, pigeons and cat, the third eyelid is well developed and is moved across the eye at intervals for cleaning the cornea. In man, cornea is cleaned by the upper eyelid. Consequently, the third eyelid has become reduced and non-functional in the course of time. It is merely a small pinkish triangular flap in the inner angle of the eye. Here you can see the arrow indicates the third eyelid, that is nictitating membrane. Next is auricular muscles. Mammals such as rabbit, dog, cow possess auricular muscles in connections with each pinna. With these muscles, they move their pinna to direct them toward the source of sound to pick up sound waves more efficiently. Due to lack of need for such a movement in man, these muscles have become reduced and useless during the course of evolution. So, therefore, cannot move the pinna. Now, cecum and vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix is a blind tube at the end of the cecum in certain mammals including man. In herbivores like rabbit and horse, the cecum and vermiform appendix are large structures and serve for the digestion of cellulose content of the food by bacterial action. In man, the habit of taking soft and cooked food has reduced the need for bacterial digestion. The cecum and appendix have consequently become very small and serve no useful role. Instead, the vermiform appendix often becomes diseased in man due to infection. The disease is called appendicitis and requires surgical removal of the appendix. The cecum and appendix persist in man because they were present in the ancestral form. In case of other animals, like here you can see the Greenland whales, here the whales normally lack pelvic girdle and the hind limbs. The Greenland whales, however, possess vestiges of the pelvic girdle and bones of the hind limbs inside the body. This shows that the whales have evolved from the forms which possessed hind limbs and hip girdle. These structures have become vestigial during the evolution in the Greenland whales and have completely disappeared in other whales. Next is pythons and boas. Here, the snakes have evolved from the lizard-like reptiles bearing two pair of functional limbs, but due to changes in their mode of life, have lost the limbs and girdles completely. The pythons and boas still retain the pelvic girdle and the hind limbs in a reduced condition. So here in this picture you can see the vestigial pelvic girdles and bones of the hind limbs in case of the python and vestigial hind limbs in a python. Now in case of horse, the splint bones, here in this picture you can see the splint bone of the modern horse are the vestiges of the second and fourth functional toes of its ancestor. The dawn horse, the reduction in the number of toes is associated with a change in the gait of the horse during the course of evolution. And the last is here that in case of the plant, vestigial organs occurs here like in case of ruscus. Here you can see the scale leaves and the coscuta, asparagus and various underground stems. So it shows the cladodes and scale leaves which are the vestigial organs. So these are all about the vestigial organs. After this, the seventh feature is atavism. So what is atavism? Atavism, also called reversion or throwback, is the reappearance of a certain ancestral, not parental, structure which has either completely disappeared or greatly reduced. So, there are many examples of atavistic structures in man, such as occurrence of a short tail in some babies, presence of additional mammae in two rows down the front of the body of some persons, power of moving pinna in certain cases, large canines, very long and dense hair on the body. So, the presence of these structures only in a few individuals of a species can be explained on the assumption that there is a tendency among the animals to develop structures of their remote ancestors. And atavism is also observed in case of plants. Like in case of citrus leaf, here you can see in the picture, the lamina is separated from the wing petiole by means of a joint or constriction. Occasionally, the winged part of the petiole gets enlarged to produce two lateral leaflets. The citrus leaf was once trifoliate compound, but during evolution, two leaflets have degenerated. So these are the atavism. After this, the second evidence in evolution is embryological evidences. So, here you can see the comparative study of the embryology of different animal groups shows striking structural similarities between them. Now, here there are some aspects of embryology which lend support to the doctrine of organic evolution, like first one, that is the similar early development. So what are the similar early development? All animals start life as a single cell, that is the zygote. In all cases, the zygote undergoes cleavage, producing a many-celled holoblastula. The latter changes into gastrula, having in most cases three primary germ layers, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm form. The entire animal develops from these three layers, and each of the three primary germ layers produces the same set of organs in all the animals. The similar early development and the same fate of the three germ layers in all the animals are of the great significance. They establish a close relationship among the animals and suggest that all of them have evolved in a series from a common ancestor. So this is the similar early development. After this, The second aspect of embryological evidences is resemblance among vertebrate embryos. So what are the resemblance? The early embryo of all the vertebrates resembles in shape and structure, which you can see in the picture. They have similar head with the eye and ear rudiments, similar segmentally arranged somites, similar visceral arcs and the visceral furrows, and a similar embryonic tail. Later, in the second row here you can see, many of them grow limbered and develop internal organs in a similar way. The resemblance in some cases is so close that it becomes difficult to tell them apart. This similarity among the early embryos shows that all the vertebrates have evolved from a common ancestors and they possess a common hereditary that expresses their similarities in the embryonic life. So these are the resemblance among the vertebrate embryos. After this, the third aspect is recapitulation theory. What is this? So, Born-Beer in 1828 put forward Born-Beer's law. It was later called biogenetic law by the Ernst Haeckel in 1866. It states that an animal in its individual development from egg to adult repeats or recapitulates in a condensed form the stages through which its ancestors have passed in the course of their evolution. This state that briefly three words, that is ontogeny repeats phylogeny. It means in the evolutionary history of the race of the animals, organism repeats its ancestral history during its development. Now here you can see the examples. Frog has its development and aquatic fish like tadpole larva. The latter has a tail which has a tail fin for swimming and gills for breathing in water. This stage indicates that the frog has evolved from a fish-like ancestor. So it shows the ontogeny repeats phylogeny. Next is here recapitulations of the ancestral forms during individuals' development occurs in plants also. So here you can see the protonema. The second picture shows the protonema. This is the protonema. An early stage in the development of a moss and a fern gametophyte resembles the filamentous green algae in structure, physiology and growth pattern. This suggests an algal ancestry of the bryophytes and pteridophytes. Next is here the gymnosperms have normally become dependent of water in fertilization. But the primitive gymnosperms such as cycas and ginkgo, here you can see in the picture, have flattened sperms and need water for the fertilization like the pteridophytes. This suggests that the gymnosperm have descended from the pteridophyte-like ancestor. Here, the seedlings of the acacia tree first develop simple leaves but later produces compound leaves. This shows acacia has evolved from the plants with simple leaves. So it shows the recapitulation theory. After this, now the fourth aspect of the embryological evidence is temporary non-functional embryonic structures. Embryos of certain animals develop non-functional structures which disappear or are greatly reduced before hatching or birth. The embryos of birds develop tooth buds which disappear before hatching. The embryos do not take any food through the mouth. They live on fluid yolk which is absorbed by special blood vessels. Their teeth are therefore of no use of them. The adult birds feed on hard, solid food such as grains, nuts, meats, etc. and require teeth for the mastication, but they have none. So, this peculiar phenomena can be easily explained by the concept of evolution, as under the birds have evolved by modification of toothed reptiles and they have lost teeth in the course of modification, and their embryos repeat for a short time and the ancestral characters of the presence of teeth. So embryos of a toothless whale also develop tooth buds for similar reasons. After this, the fifth aspect is development of vertebrate organs. So, the development of certain organs such as heart, brain and ear in the vertebrate indicates their common ancestry. Here you can see the heart during its development in birds and mammals passed through two-chambered and three-chambered stages before becoming four-chambered. This indicates that both birds and mammals have originated from the fishes, which have two-chambered heart, through the amphibians and reptiles, which have three-chambered and incompletely four-chambered heart respectively. So why should the heart of pigeon and rabbit develop in a similar way? The answer lies in their evolution origin from a common ancestor, that is reptiles. So these are all about the embryological evidences. Now the third evidence is taxonomic evidences. So what is taxonomy? The following aspects of natural classification provide evidence in support of evolution, in which the first one is similarities among organisms. The natural classification of animals and plants is based on the comparative morphology of organisms. After this, the arrangement of taxonomic groups. So, in case of arrangement, the various groups of animals and plants can be arranged in an order showing gradual increasing complexity in structure. This shows that they have appeared in this very order, the lower forms developing into the higher ones by the gradual modification. So, what are the evidences used for the taxonomy? Organisms have evolved to survive in their environment. Taxonomy helps us classify organisms to see how closely related they are. The taxonomic relationship between the two organisms is based on three types of evidences. First one is anatomical evidences. Do the structures of the organism look the same? Next is physiological evidences. Do the proteins and the enzymes in the cells work the same? And the last is DNA evidences, that how genetically closely related are the genes and the proteins they make. So these are the taxonomic evidences on which you can find out that the structures of organism, their proteins and enzymes, their DNA structures and all. So after this, the fourth evidence is here, that is cytological evidences. So what are the cytological evidences? A cell is a unit of structure and function in all organisms. This reflects the basic relationship among all the living creatures. In most cases, the cells have similar organelles such as membranes, ribosomes, mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, nucleus, and others. The cell organelles have the similar structure and role in all the cells. So, this further emphasizes the relationship of living system. Moreover, the cells in all the organisms are composed of the same unique material, that is the protoplasm, which has similar physical structure, chemical composition and biological properties. The cilia and flagella that occur in almost all eukaryotes are remarkably alike in ultrastructure. So the cells divide and also carry on the basic life functions in a similar manner throughout the living world. These facts strengthen the concept of unity of life. So cytology in relation to the taxonomy or the cytotaxonomy, here the term karyotype is used for the phenotypic appearance of the somatic chromosomes. The diagrammatic representation of the karyotype is termed as ideogram. The characteristics of the chromosomes which have proved to be of taxonomic value include chromosome number, chromosome size, chromosome morphology and chromosome behavior during meiosis. So this is the cytotaxonomy and these are the complete cytological evidences. After this, the fifth evidence is evidences from the animal and plant breeding. Man has produced improved varieties of the useful animals and plants by self-effort. Several new breeds of the pheasant, fowl, rabbit, dog, horse, sheep, pig and cow have been formed. Improved varieties of wheat, rice, maize, cotton, sugarcane, flowering plants and foliage plants have been produced. So, The new breeds or the varieties differ a great deal from their wild ancestral stocks. No doubt, the varieties of each of the above animal and plant still belong to the same species. It is possible that if the development of such variations is continued, there would emerge a form which would be regarded new species. These animals and plants have thus undergone changes, and this is evolution. So here you can see that from the wild mustard, cabbage farm, broccoli, kohlrabi, kale and the Brussels sprouts. So these shows the evidences from the artificial selection. And here you can see for getting the new varieties may have simply been copying the natural method, that is selection and breeding, that is selective breeding, by which new types of animals and plants have evolved. If man can produce new varieties in a short period of artificial selection, nature, with vast resources and infinite time at its disposal, can easily bring forth new species. So, man has selectively breeds animals and plants for thousands of years. The breeds of animals that are reared for humans use are clearly related to the wild species, and in many cases domesticated animals can still interbreed with their wild relatives. Domesticated breeds have been developed by selecting desirable traits and breeding from them. The striking differences in the heritable characters of domesticated breeds provides evidences that species can evolve rapidly. So this is the end of video. In this video, we knew about the evolution, relationship among organisms, meaning of organic evolution, some evidences of organic evolutions. Here, you can see that there are 5 main different types of evolutions, which you see in here. That is first one, that is the morphological and anatomical evidences. After this, the next one is the embryological evidence, then the taxonomic, cytological and evidences from the animal and plant breeding. So there are some of the evidences of the organic evolution which we will discuss in the next video. So here you can see the 5 evidences. The next 4 evidences we will see in the next video. So the next upcoming video is evidences of evolution. So if you understand this video, please like and share it and subscribe to my channel Upma Biology Classes. If you have any questions, any queries or any suggestions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for the watching.